I'd like to call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion to convene into executive session?
I make a motion to approve executive session minutes for November 4th, review and approve matters related to the privacy of students and their records pursuant to the law 4246-5A8, homeschool request, collective bargaining with Scituate education support personnel, NERA, or pursuit of RI 4246-5A2, collective bargaining, update a STA negotiations pursuant general law 42-46-5A2, collective bargaining, potential litigation pursuant to Rhode Island general laws, litigation pursuant to Rhode Island general laws 42-46-5-A2, Warwick Public Schools versus Barrington Schools, um, before the Commissioner of Education. Approval of executive session minutes for November 17th, pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246 for 5A1, job performance of an individual, to discuss the appointment of acting superintendent of schools and/or acting assistant superintendent of schools, collective bargaining with the Scituate education support personnel, NERA, a pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246 5A2, collective bargaining. Update on STA negotiations pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2, collective bargaining. M versus Scituate School Department, special education pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2, potential litigation.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I would like to welcome Linda Savastano, who is our new acting assistant superintendent. She'll have an opportunity to speak later on in the meeting with her report, but I wanted to recognize Linda. There were two votes taken in executive session. Both were to approve the minutes on November 4th and then November 17th. Having said that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda to include the minutes from November 4th, 2025, minutes from November 17th, 2025, bills, general fund bills in the amount of $1,054,967.80, grant fund bills in the amount of $21,265.10, and nutrition fund bills in the amount of $46,541.55.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And next, very important part of our meeting, I believe, is it Becky? Who's coming up? I believe, Becky, you're going to come up and say a few words. Please do. Anybody?
So this very special news is a retirement at Hope Elementary School of a very special individual. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate someone truly extraordinary. Tonight, we honor a woman whose name has become synonymous with dedication, integrity, and heart, Mrs. Sherry McCann. Sherry's story is woven into the very fabric of Scituate. She grew up in these schools, walked these halls as a student, and lucky for all of us, returned to make them her professional home. For 35 years, Sherry has given everything she has to this community. She has shaped generations of students, mentored countless colleagues, and lifted the profession through her leadership, her voice, and her unwavering commitment to doing what is right. Anyone who has worked with Sherry knows one simple truth. She is always the first one in and the last one out. Long before the sun comes up, or I'm even out of bed most days, her classroom lights are already on. And long after dismissal, you'll still find her supporting a colleague, planning something special for her students, or making sure that every detail is just right. Above and beyond isn't something she strives for, it's simply who she is. Sherry has served as a grade level lead, a trusted mentor, and a powerhouse advocate on our union and negotiations committees. She has never hesitated to stand up for teachers, for students, and for the values that keep our schools strong. Her professionalism and courage have made a lasting impact, not just on her classroom, but on our entire district. And yet, with all that she has done and all that she has accomplished, the most beautiful chapter begins now. Sherry is retiring to take care of her twin grandbabies, perhaps the only job that could possibly pull her away from the one that she has loved so dearly. We know that this next adventure will bring her immeasurable joy, and no one has earned it more. Sherry, your legacy is not just in the lessons you taught, but in the people you shaped, the teachers who learned from you, the students who always remember you, and the colleagues who were better because they worked beside you. Your work has shaped this community in ways that will last long after you leave the classroom, and we hope you carry with you the deep gratitude and admiration that we all feel for you. On behalf of the entire Scituate community, thank you for 35 years of service, passion, stability, and heart. Thank you for giving Scituate the very best of yourself. While we will always miss your steady presence and tireless dedication, we celebrate you with full hearts as you step into this new and very special role. You deserve every moment of rest, hopefully, I don't know, twins, joy, and family time that this next chapter will bring. We wish you joy, peace, and endless snuggles with those beautiful grandbabies. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will never forget the difference you have made. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. There's no place like home. Say it all the time. Thank you so.
And with that being said, okay to celebrate for a few minutes with cake?
Hello?
Anybody else want cake? Cake?
We can do that.
Megan, we saw you raising your hand. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
I was hoping that we could share the video screen so you could see the grandchildren.
Oh,
Any idea how?
I'm looking right at our tech guy. Hold on. That's the best idea of the whole night, though.
We did hear noises.
He's trying, Megan. Sorry.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Say yay, Grandma. We love you and we can't wait for you to come babysit us. Right? Yay. Okay. Say we love you, Grandma. Okay. Bye now.
Thank you for sharing them with us.
Of course. Thank
And we
you.
guess we'll let her go. They seem pretty cute. We'll let her go to you guys.
While everybody finishes up their cake, I'll bring up Mike and Jen. I believe you're going to do your presentation. First time I went to one.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. My name is Mike Hassel. I'm the proud principal of Scituate High School. With me is Jen. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Jen Goff. I'm the assistant principal for the middle school and the high school.
So every year we have a tradition. Each school hosts a different school committee meeting, and we're honored and privileged to be here to share some data with you tonight. We have a lot to celebrate at Scituate High School, so tonight is just about that, celebrating all the wins and then talking about what are the next steps. One of the great reasons why I think Ms. Goff and I love being at Scituate High School is because as great as we are, there's always great work to be done. And we just feel like our job is never finished. And I think that's what captures tonight. There are so many great wins, but we're not there yet. We have places that we want to be and that we want to strive to be. And we want to be one of the best districts and certainly the best high schools in the state, and we're on our way. Jen is our assistant principal of teaching and learning at the middle school and high school. She is absolutely amazing. Her role is something that's kind of newer throughout the country and certainly something that's pretty popular in Rhode Island as well. We have shifted for about 5 or 6 years now to a dean of students who really handles restorative practices and discipline at the middle school, high school level. And Jen's role is teaching and learning. So she's really doing it all with me. We're looking at curriculum, we're looking at instruction, what that looks like in the classroom, and then looking at these data presentations to say, how can we drill down deeper? How can we get better? How can we push? How can we keep pushing that needle? But I can't sing her praises enough because we're fortunate to have her. I think she's been our longest standing assistant principal of teaching and learning, and we hope we don't lose her. But I'm going to hand things off to her. She's going to do most of the talking, and then I'm going to try my best to chime in whenever I can. And the first one's my slide, so I'm not giving up the microphone. We're talking C to E. Back off, Jen. All right, can I take this off? So one of the things that we are extremely proud of at Scituate High School, for those of you that don't know, we just have about 400 students. We've always been just around 400 or 500 students. The nation has seen declining enrollment in suburban districts, and we certainly saw that here in Scituate as well. We saw a rebound. This is the biggest that our high school has ever been. We are just shy of 400. During the COVID years, it was getting pretty scary there. We were down to some, 380 something, and I'll stop there. One of the reasons why those numbers are so high, when you take a look at this, we have 74 students who decided to join us this year in grades 9, 10, 11, 12, who don't live in Scituate. They live in surrounding towns and cities, and they chose to come here for one of our now 5 RIDE-approved CTE programs. So if you look at the breakdown, again, this is a data presentation, so celebrating the positive and looking at that data, 30 of those 74 students are coming from Johnston. 16 is our other kind of biggest draw there. We are from Coventry. Then we have West Warwick, North Providence, Burrillville, Cranston. We have a bunch from Charlestown, Hopkinton. Their parents drive them all the way up here from Charlestown, which is, when you think about it, how amazing that is, that somebody is dedicated to say, I want my high school to be Scituate High School, and I'm getting in the car and I'm driving there every day. Sometimes he's late, but we don't mark him late. It's fine. We have 2 from Providence, 2 from Smithfield, 1 from North Smithfield, 1 from Foster, and 1 from East Providence as well. So when we started our career and tech programs about 8 years ago, we had nothing. Those of you who might remember or might not know, we were absolutely bleeding to Ponegantsit. Scituate High School students were leaving in droves to go to their career and tech programs. We have completely smashed that. We have 74 students here. I think we had maybe 4 students who were freshmen that decided to go to Ponegantsit, and it makes sense. It's for programs, like, the system's working. It's for programs that we might not have enough students to offer here, and they're choosing programs that we don't offer. Students aren't leaving Scituate High School to choose programs that we don't have. So just real quick, the 4 that we have are entrepreneurship tied to finance. We have an awesome partnership with a company called One Strategy. They're amazing. We have a biomedical program. We have a computer science program. We have an engineering program that's tied to architecture. It's also tied to computer integrated manufacturing. And we were just approved for an official career and tech program in education. And we've been going down to all of the elementary schools. Specifically this year, we've been going to Clayville, and it's been amazing. Lori Boudiette said she came back with goosebumps during their first visit. Our high school kids were nervous. They came down here. They were working with kids. So it's really happening. The first time I actually worked with kids was when I was a junior in college. So the fact that our Scituate High School students are getting that hands-on experience now is amazing. Students take a series of 3 career and tech programs, and then they have to complete 80 hours of work-based learning. So it's pretty amazing stuff. I'm going way more than I should be, so I promise you I'm going to be quiet. But obviously, we're proud of this. Coming from, I think we had one student from Johnston that first year when we opened our doors, and we were like, we've got one student here from Scituate. And the fact that we have 74 students, and I'll say my daughter is actually one of them. We live in Coventry, and she's here for the biomedical program, and she absolutely loves it. So we're doing good things in the CTE world. I'm going to hand things off to Jen.
Thank you, Mr. Hassel. Okay, so if you want to weigh in at any point, feel free. So this year we were 4 stars on the ride report card. This is a quick breakdown of what that looks like. So the achievement and growth is on a scale of 5 to 17. We scored a 12, and because of that, we had 4 stars there. Graduation rate, 5 stars, diploma plus 5 stars, and the next one is there we go. School quality and student success, 5 stars. So when you reach a certain like cut score within the possible points, that determines what you are for stars in that category. So when we go to the next slide, we can see where we're doing really well and where we need a little work. Achievement in ELA was pretty good this year, and we'll go over those scores in a minute. We scored 3 out of 4 points. Achievement in math is 2 out of 4, so we need a little work there. Growth in ELA, 2 out of 3. Growth in math was the top amount of points at 3 points, and our science proficiency, 2 out of 3.
Just coming back to that original, one more slide before that, just wanted to point out that for the past 2 years, we really have been 5 stars in every single category. So the highest you can get in every single category, except for the SATs. So that's our area of focus. But if you look there, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. We have one of the highest graduation rates, which is really hard to do. When last year's graduating class had 84 students in it, it was a particularly low class. I think when I graduated in 2001, it was like 83 kids. So sometimes Scituate gets these kind of bubble smaller classes, and that was certainly one of them. But the fact that we're really able to take every single student and make sure that they're graduating. And I see some senior parents in here right now that were like, yes, they're going to graduate. Together, we're going to do it. That's just a point there that we have hit 5 stars. We're going to talk a little bit about math in a little bit because that's something we certainly need to focus on. And then we didn't talk about the ATSI category yet, right? Okay.
It's actually not, but we can talk about it. Okay. So this is our school improvement plan at a glance. This is what we worked on last year. We looked at our areas of strength and our areas of need, and then we determined where we need to do more work. So our SAT math scores exceed the state average in high school, but still dip below pre-pandemic scores. Our SAT ELA reading scores exceed state average, but still dip below pre-pandemic scores. And NGSA science scores are generally equal to the state average. So in our summary of priority areas, we are looking at obviously tested areas because we have SAT and NGSA. So priorities 1, 2, and 3 are improving math, improving ELA, and improving science. And we'll break that down a little bit further. So in looking at improving math achievement, our goal was that by the end of 24-25, the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations would increase by 5%. How were we going to do that? We were looking at formative assessments that mirror the SAT that are implemented throughout the curriculum, incentivizing the assessment, and the implementation of MTSS, which is our multi-tiered system of support, helping students who have areas of need. ALEX, which is a math program that students work on. It's self-paced and it's based on each individual student's area of need. And then STAR assessment, which is progress monitoring that happens throughout the year. So these are the last 3 years for the SAT and the PSAT. So the SAT has dipped from 34% to 30 to 29%. The 30% to 29% was actually less than a percentage, but it's 1%. Not ideal, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. Our SAT scores, PSAT scores, however, grew 7%. So we know we're doing something right, but we know that we still have some more work to do. So we looked at where we did well. SAT students with disabilities who were meeting or exceeding grew 22%. That is huge. So last year, when the RIDE report card came out, we were flagged as a TSI, ATSI school. That means there was a subgroup that was not where they were supposed to be. We worked with the special ed department and teachers to come up with a plan because one of the areas was that there was a gap between the growth of our special ed students and the rest of the population. So we wanted to make sure that we were addressing those needs. The fact that we grew 22% was amazing. And as a result, we're no longer identified as TSI, ATSI. Yeah, no.
Quick on that, because I know. So that ATSI and TSI, I'm not even sure what the acronyms stand for, but basically what RIDE defines that as is if you had a subgroup within your school population that was its own school, they would be a one-star school. And unfortunately, in most suburban districts, Narragansett, East Exeter, West Greenwich, the similar North Smithfield, I don't think they were, but we were flagged for the past 3 years of not showing enough growth or achievement on the SATs with students with disabilities. So we had a comprehensive, like, let's fix this. This isn't right. We only have, 100 kids per grade level. This is ridiculous. How can we improve this? And we did. To the teacher's credit, I see Mr. Sukar back there, who's one of our math teachers. He's amazing. And to our special educators, they really had an individualized plan for the SATs for each kid, and we cleared both categories. So our students with disabilities at Scituate High School last year, both on the PSAT and SAT, they were not identified as a subgroup, which is great. And the SATs are really hard. And there are some students who are pretty limited who are taking these. And what I mean by that is the state has changed their qualification of being alternately assessed. Alternately assessed really means that you have significant and profound special education needs. They have now said, which is a good thing, only 1% of a school population can be alternately assessed. So if someone was kind of on the border of that, they're taking the SATs. And that's really hard. So the fact that we achieved this and we're out of this category, it's great for kids. And I just want to give a shout out too, because as Ms. Goff said, and she was a former ELA teacher herself, our ELA department has just killed it. They're doing a great job. Mr. Sanson is the only 11th grade teacher, so he is like specifically focusing and honing in on the SATs, and he did a great job. Every year, our percentage points just went up and up and up in ELA.
Okay. So for Math Glows, continuing on, SAT students who had high growth grew 11%. SAT students not meeting expectations, so those who scored pretty low on the PSAT, that decreased 7%, which means they grew. SAT students with accommodations had high growth. They grew 46%. PSA students meeting and exceeding increased 7%. That would be our 7% increase overall for the math portion of the SAT. And PSAT students with disabilities not meeting expectations decreased 40%. So while we saw a 1% dip in SAT math, we grew in PSAT for math. We know that we're taking steps in the right direction. So grows, where do we need to implement some more support, and what are we going to do about it? So as I just said, SAT students meeting exceeding decreased by 1%. I meet with Miss Daly, who is the math department chair, and we are excited that we have a new math curriculum in place this year. So that's kind of down on the bulleted list, but they were using something called Agile Mind. We realized that we were the only high school, I believe, in the state still using it. Other districts who had picked it up got rid of it. So we went through the curriculum vetting process last year and we sat together for many hours and looked at different programs. We talked to different districts and they settled on something called Reveal. So we're using that for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. The feedback is pretty positive so far, and we have more PD to come as they roll through the year. Absolutely.
Just a point on Agile Mind. So when the state rolled out that every high school had to have high quality curriculum, we had to buy these purchased, nationally vetted, green lit curricula, and we chose Agile Mind. The teachers gave us feedback in the first couple of years that they weren't quite sure about it, to say the least. And we as a district decided that we had invested a lot of money. School committee, we were very fortunate for us to invest in all this curriculum. We wanted to make sure that we're implementing this curriculum with fidelity. And then we finally got to a point where, like Jen said, we were the last Rhode Island school using this. And there was a reason why people were getting rid of this. And like Jen said, Mr. Sukar and the math department are loving the new one. We're cautiously optimistic. It usually takes about 3 to 5 years to really see some major growth within a new curriculum. So, is it going to impact the SATs and PSATs this year? Probably, but I don't think we're going to see the giant, jumps until a couple of years from now. But I'm hoping that we can stay the course and that Reveal is the curriculum that we're going to be using. Barrington is using it. They have, I think, the highest scores in the state. So if we want to be the model of who's the best, let's do what Barrington's doing.
Thank you, Mr. Hassel. So students have full year math labs this year if they're in a lab, and they work on things like ALEX, which when a student logs into ALEX, it assesses where they are and assigns them tasks based on the skills they need the most support in until they master that, and then they move to other levels and other tasks. We have something called Conmigo. Is anyone familiar with Khan Academy? Have heard of Khan Academy? So we have Conmigo here. All the districts in the state have that, and that gives students the opportunity for digital PSAT and SAT practice prep. They're also doing skills practice within their classrooms and collaborative practice where they're working out problems together based on areas of need. We already talked about Reveal. Students are reviewing their previous test results. So if they're 11th graders, they're SAT students, if they're 10th graders, PSAT, they can look at their previous scores from the year before. 9th graders here take PSAT 8-9, which is really a practice test. The benefit of that is they're exposed to what the test looks like because they've come off a number of years of RICAS, and RICAS is a lot different than the SAT. So in 9th grade, they have the opportunity to take the PSAT 9. And that gives them the opportunity to really look at the test and what's coming. Looking at their previous test results gives them an idea of like how it scored and where they did really well and where they didn't and where they can practice. In-class review and practice of PSAT, SAT items, content area data analysis meetings. So I met with all of the tested areas at the middle school and high school. The meetings were about 2 to 2.5 hours, and we looked at how students scored. Teachers are able to look at their students they have now and students from previous years and have conversations with each other about where the students scored, where the state scored, and where we need more support. The benefit of this is really looking at released items if they're available, and where, when they're doing the practice in the classrooms, where they need the most, the kids need the most help. And then incentivizing and recognizing students who have high growth and or achieve proficiency on state tests. This is great for grade 11 because their scores from PSAT 10 to 11 are on the RIDE portal. So we can see where the high growth is and students who score, above where they did last year. Incentivizing the test looks different. So I think, did we do prom tickets last year and parking passes and things like that? Yeah. First spot at the parking for the seniors is a very big deal. We have talked about other ways to incentivize, but every year we like to get teacher feedback. So we send out like a poll and see what the thoughts are. And they're very honest about what they think is working and what isn't. Do you want to add anything else, Mr. Hassel? Okay. Next was improving ELA achievement, and like math, our goal was to increase by 5% over the year before. So implementing additional writing tasks, incentivizing the assessment, and the same initiative as math, MTSS, Lexia, which is similar to Alex, but for English, and STAR progress monitoring. So this year, it kind of flipped because math dipped SAT down and PSAT went up 7 and ELA's the opposite. SAT jumped up 7%. I think, did you say this was one of the best scores in the state, Mr. Hessel? Yeah. So that's amazing. PSA went down 1%, but fell right in the average of where we've been for the past 3 years.
Again, the double-edged sword of Scituate High School. We're such a small school that each cohort is completely different. So last year's seniors, there's about 100 of them. Those were the ones that took the SATs last year. No, I'm sorry. Last year's seniors, there was a small one. It was 84, and now this year's juniors have 100. So there's a difference there too when we're comparing like SAT to SAT every single year. Those cohorts make a difference, and those percentage points per kid start to add up there too.
All right, so glows for ELA. We've got SAT students meeting and exceeding increased 7%. Again, SAT students with disabilities experiencing high growth grew 16%. That's amazing. SAT economically disadvantaged students meeting and exceeding grew 24%. PSA students with disabilities who met or exceeded grew 5%, and PSAT economically disadvantaged students who exceeded grew 10%. Areas of need and what are we going to do about it? PSAT students exceeding expectations decreased 4% and meeting exceeding decreased 1%. Just like math, our ELA labs are Conmigo for digital SAT and PSAT prep, skills practice, and we have a writing program called No Red Ink. That is a writing program. There are embedded prompts, but the teachers can also create the prompts. And it's kind of like a tutorial writing program that they use in addition to what they already implement in the classroom. They have beginning, middle, and end of year writing prompts. So what does that mean? A student's writing in the beginning of the year is going to look a lot different than it does at the end of the year. So the beginning year, mid-year, end of year tracks their progress and sees where they need the most support and where they're doing well. Like math, students are logging in to see their previous results and do a data analysis to see where they need more support. In-class review and practice of PSAT and SAT items. The data meetings, we did that for ELA as well. And then incentivizing and recognizing students who have high growth and achieve proficiency. I also want to say that ELA at the high school has a new curriculum this year. I think I forgot to put that bullet in, but they were using something called Springboard, which they picked up right before I came on. And they chose Springboard because it was put out by College Board, and College Board does the SAT and PSAT. So they thought this would be a great fit. Well, as it turns out, we were the only district in the state using it. And coming from an ELA background and coming in kind of at the beginning of that implementation process, there were a lot of areas in that curriculum choice that were not ideal and the teachers didn't love it. We had them stay the course for 3 years because you want to make sure that you're following with fidelity, and if you're going to say it's not working, you need to justify why it's not working. So again, for ELA, we went out to other districts, talked to them about what they were using, and they settled on Odell. Barrington is using Odell. We did a site visit there and got to talk with their whole team about what they love about it. And so they are implementing that this year, and we have PD planned throughout the year for them as well. And then finally, we have science achievement. Again, we were hoping to grow by 5%. So the teachers are implementing additional NGSA tasks. NGSA is a little different than other state tests because it's only in grades 5, 8, and 11. So the content on the test for kids in 11th grade could be something that was in 5th grade. or 8th grade. And it could be questions that they haven't been exposed to. The buy-in for this, and in 11th grade, they're tired by the time you get to NGSA. The buy-in is difficult for the kids because they're like, it doesn't matter, right? I don't have to report my NGSA scores to colleges when I apply. So what's the difference if I try or not? We put out a poll last year to students to ask them what we could do to incentivize the test for them. And it's definitely a challenge. And we're not the only school who's facing this. There are other schools as well. So what do you do when you're in that place? You reach out to say, well, what kind of prep are you doing? In addition to incentivizing a test and doing the practice, like how are you getting kids to buy in? So those are constant conversations that we're having. So our NGSA 3 years ago was 34%. We jumped up to 40% 2 years ago. And last year we just dipped down 3%. So the 37 is right in between where we have been. If you want to go to the next slide, I'll jump right into GLOWs. So our GLOWs are special education students meeting exceeding grew 29%. Economically disadvantaged students not meeting decreased by 7. And the student cohort, and this is the big piece here, grew from 31% to 37% from grade 8 to grade 11. So I really wanted to see where that group of kids, where they were in grade 8 and where they were in grade 11. And I think a 6% increase shows that we are doing something right. Again, our scores decreased from one year to the other. So what are we going to do about it? We also had students with accommodations meeting exceeding decreased by 5%. So we had the content area data meetings again. We did a standards analysis to determine which science classes assess each standard. So chemistry, biology, physics, whatever we have for science, those NGSA questions are hitting different courses. So the teachers are looking at where they can embed NGSA type questions into their specific courses. Ongoing NGSA practice items and assessments with review, and then incentivizing and recognizing students who achieve proficiency on the state tests. And that's it. You want to add anything, Mr. Hassel? Okay. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Hold on, we have a comment.
So, Mr. Hassel, I wanted to say thank you. You did something in the beginning of the presentation that I think we don't recognize enough, and that is to talk a little bit about Ms. Goff's job. And I'm really going to praise you, but I had to start with him. I thought I was going to have to get the Pina Soprano hook to get him off your. So recently, and again, I think those of us who have been doing this for a few years and kind of get in, we know how crucial your position is. And I think, recently I heard somebody say something along the lines of, what do we need an assistant principal for if we have a dean of student? And it is a whole new world. It really and truly is. I'll date myself. When I went to school, the assistant principal role was a little different than it is now, right? I can still remember my high school principal. He was a tough, stern disciplinarian, and that was his job, and that's what he did. Over the last decade or so, obviously, it's changed. It really has changed. And we've made our principals, kind of the CEOs of their school through, the Empowerment Act. And, they have a multitude of jobs. There is no possible way that a building principal at, middle high school can dive as deep into this curriculum and do it with fidelity. I mean, I just had to say that piece. Yes, we have ebbs and flows, and we're seeing a trajectory moving in the right way, but I praise Ms. Morell and Mr. Hassel quite often about all they do, but Ms. Goff, I just had to say thank you for what you're doing, because your job truly does make a difference in what we're seeing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's not just about looking at curriculum and looking at test scores. It's about supporting students in need, having conversations with teachers and students and bringing them together. I'm the 504 coordinator for 6 through 12. So I'm in those meetings upwards of 8 hours a week, having conversations with parents about how to meet their students' needs. So even though it's teaching and learning, it's a lot more than that. I also cover the building when Miss Morell and Mr. Hassel are out. And that sometimes means that Mr. Soprano and I get to team up and, get through any sort of student crisis or need that arises. So thank you.
Here he comes. He's coming back. He's coming back again. So just for the record, please let the notes reflect that Mr. Hassel did at the beginning of this presentation say, this is, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Goff, and make sure you get this one right. I almost had to get the Peter Soprano hook. Those of you who know Mr. Soprano know once he gets in front of it, Mike. But thank you.
I agree that Jen Goff is amazing and how valuable the position is. And, being now in this position here and being fortunate to be here for 10 years and being in this community for a long time, I also hear sometimes those comments, and it's just not the model anymore. The model has shifted. In 2019, there was a new law in Rhode Island called the Accountability Act, and it took all of the responsibility from the school committee and really placed it in the building levels to try to model Massachusetts, that principals are now CEOs of the building. And we're fortunate here in Scituate because we get to do that. Like, we get to transfer money and build our own budget from the ground up. But Mr. Soprano, as a dean of students, he does not stop. He doesn't eat lunch. He doesn't stop. Today there was a minor thing at the high school, and I was like, he was dealing with a major thing at the middle school. So I was like, here I am. You got me today. I'm the one. So, in my opinion, humbly, the model is working, and it's showing in successful districts throughout the country and in Rhode Island that the model is certainly working. And the models that aren't working, those are high schools around the state that are getting 2-star schools, or they're getting a mass exodus of students, and their districts are paying millions of
I'm gonna
dollars.
get you the hook because I have to say this, and I'm trying. Then you can give me the hook, I promise. So I think it's wonderful, like you put up there about the CTE students coming, 74 is a tremendous number of students. I've said this before and I'll continue to say it again. We never implemented the CTE programs to bring students in. We implemented CTE programs to keep our students here. There is a class of students, and you probably know the number, you probably have bad dreams about it. They're presently juniors in college. So I want to say high school graduating at 23. We lost upwards of 30 students, maybe, when they entered their freshman year. This is before we had fully implemented. So this kind of piggybacks on the other piece. Without having that assistant principal of teaching and learning, there is no way that we could have gotten these CTE programs up, running, and expanded to the point where we're retaining, most importantly, retaining our own students, let alone bringing in other students as well. So kudos to both of you.
Do we have a question? I can't, there's someone raising their hands. I cannot see the people who are on Zoom at home. So we have one person that has their hand raised, Kelly Koulis. Kelly, can you hear us? And if so, state your name and where you live.
Hi there, it's Kelly Koulis, 37 Lane, North Scituate, Rhode Island. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much for the presentation. From a parent of an elementary student, it's really helpful to see this. I've gotten feedback from other parents who have had other kids, there are other kids who have gone through the middle school and high school and their parents as well. I'm a new North Scituate, resident with the past, maybe 8 years. So I don't have that tenure. And they always speak to the fact that there used to be a lot of more after school programs for kids at the high school level and middle school level. Maybe the kids weren't so apt to be involved in sports. And now and maybe they would want to be involved in math. And then after your presentation, I can see with a SAT and the PSAT scores and the math and science. And my daughter is more, geared to maybe kind of being involved in that. And I just want to hear from the principal and the assistant principal or vice principal for what is actually going on at the high school level. Like I'm coming at this like early on and being proactive. While it's not an immediate concern for me right now with my daughter in fourth grade, but I've heard a lot of feedback around that. Thank you.
Kelly, before you go, just a clarifying point. What specifically? Like, what are you asking at the high school that are you asking for if there's sports programs or if there's more math and
No,
science opportunities?
perfect. Yeah, no, thank you. So it's more around not with sports. So what are the after school activities and engagement with the kids outside of school, right? Like after school activities that are not around sports that are geared towards other things, right? Math or science or poetry, you know, things of that
Clubs.
nature.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
what other clubs? Like clubs, like
Yeah,
clubs.
that's a great question. So real quickly, we had clubs during the day at the high school for years. And then we realized we didn't have an advisory program, which is state law, and it's how we roll out our social emotional learning standards to students. So 3 years ago, we purchased a canned curriculum called Character Strong. It's not working. And we actually got our student who represents the Rhode Island Department of Education on the student advisory board, who put together a survey for teachers to see if we move to an interest-based advisory, which is really a club, but an interest-based advisory, would a teacher be willing to kind of bring that back? So the goal at Scituate High School after the new year is to vet that all out and actually have students taking all sorts of clubs during the day. We also, with the career and tech programs, have 5 CTSOs, which are career and tech student associations, like DECA, HOSA. HOSA has 90 students in it. We only have 400 students at Scituate High School, and our HOSA biomedical program has 90 students in it. They compete at the state level. They compete at international level. They went to Anaheim. So we're still really giving students a lot of opportunities.
Mike, if you want to say what HOSA stands for,
It's Health Occupation Students of America. Yep.
and same with DECA.
I don't know what DECA stands for, but it's the finance arm of of that. Do you
Yeah.
know, Lori? Okay. Yeah. So we still have those opportunities, but to your point, I'm guessing some of those rumor mills kind of came from, it's true. The clubs kind of went away a couple of years ago, and there's a big need to bring them back for sure.
Clubs were but as you stated, those clubs are taking place during the school day.
Yes.
And obviously, due to the rigor, and we just didn't have the time
Yeah.
within the school day to keep those. Hence, we had to go with the advisory period,
Yeah, we
correct? It
still
was
have a really strong ag club after school, but what we're finding is there's between sports and jobs at the high school level, a lot of those numbers just keep dwindling and dwindling. So the after schools clubs,
that's, I think, specific. What I heard, was that more or less your question, Kelly? Was that part of your question?
Yeah, it was essentially like making sure you're catering to all folks, right? I mean, like maybe my girl doesn't want to play soccer, right? But I want her to have a club or something like, and the people who have had, you know, lineage through Scituate, they're like, wow, my mom and dad, they were able to have, after school, there was all these after school activities and clubs for math, science. And I thought it was interesting when I saw the presentation with math and science, which is like a high peak item for me. Maybe there aren't those clubs. I don't know. I'm just taking in time.
no,
I
that's a
think,
great point. If we can
you know,
offer some STEM high school course clubs after school, I would love that.
yeah, like
I
other
think we're
kids,
fortunate
and where
to,
do they go? They just go home and,
yeah,
the other kids are going playing football or soccer or whatever
sure.
it may be. But what about our,
Yeah.
our other students.
Yeah, if we can bring them back, I love it.
Could you speak to any of the after-school clubs that at the high school has presently? Like I'm assuming it's been a couple of years since I've been around, but is there still a drama club? Is there
Yep. So there's drama club at the high school. There's an agriculture club. We still have robotics at the high school with middle school as well. That's about it. And again, with 400 students, most of them really do sports. And then the other ones, I would love the opportunity to look at more opportunities to look at STEM at the high school after, or even maybe before school. I love that idea.
Right, like outside of the normal school plan, right? Because then where are those kids going? The ones that are brainiacs, or for the lack of a better word, they're just going home. And if they're a latchkey kid, again, for the lack of a better word, you know, just some type of community congregation to, fire up their desires. And that's
Well,
it.
thank you, Kelly. I think we have a great takeaway from you, and the Principal Hassel has heard you, and we'll see what we can do with that advisory period. That sounds interesting as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think that's it. Thank you for your presentation. That brings us to the public comment section of the meeting. I just want to read something to hopefully clarify a few things. A meeting of the public is a gathering where anyone can attend to discuss and provide input on a particular issue, while a school committee meeting held in public is a meeting where the school committee conducts its business, which is open to the public to observe the committee's decision-making with a designated time for public comment. The public comment period is not a time for dialogue. A meeting of the public school committee is not a meeting of the public. It is a meeting of the school committee held in public. The purpose of public comment period is to allow the public the opportunity to provide information in different perspectives to help inform the school committee's deliberations and mission. School committee members may ask clarifying questions of a speaker and vice versa, but we generally cannot engage in a discussion or debate during the public comment period itself to ensure compliance with open meeting laws. The exchange is for information purpose only. It's important for you to know that you may not be getting your answers to your questions or concerns during public comment period, but that does not mean you will not be given answers. There are other opportunities for you to get your answers. For example, you can email or write a formal letter to the school committee. You can schedule a meeting with a school committee member, because this would allow a more personal dialogue and the opportunity for the public to ask more clarifying questions, which is not possible during public comment periods. You can also contact Linda Savastano, our acting assistant superintendent. This process is designed to allow consistency and fairness, and to allow members of the community a chance to be heard without disrupting the meeting flow, and allowing the school committee to complete its business in a timely fashion. Disruptive behavior that compromises the orderly process of the meeting halts the work of the committee and potentially prevents other members of the community from participating. It's important to point out that there are content restrictions during public comment. While a wide range of topics are permitted, confidential personnel issues or student matters are not allowed. In summary, the interaction is generally kept one-sided during public comment period. The committee is present to listen, not to engage in immediate deliberation or problem solving with the speaker. If you wish to speak, please come to the mic, state your name and address. If you're zooming in, then raise your hand and I'll address it when it's your turn. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak and an opportunity for us to hear your comments, I'll allow each person to address the school committee once during public comment with a 2-minute limit. That gives us about 20 minutes in public comments. I'll ask you to respect the time limit, and if you find that you have additional comments after your turn is over, then please address them at a later time by reaching out to a school committee member or the acting assistant superintendent. But having said that, we appreciate you coming, and we want to thank you in advance. But I'll also go on to say that I will stay after the meeting if anyone wants to schedule a time to talk with me. So I have my timekeeper. Thank you. Yeah. So we have our first person we know, Matt Allen.
159 Hope Furnace Road. I just have I don't want the answers, but did Ozzy give an exit interview? And if so, who was in it? I don't want I don't want to know what she said. I just want to know if she did give one and if any of you guys were
She did give an exit interview. She did not do the interview with the entire school committee. She did it with 2 school committee members.
by choice or is that who was
Yeah, by
available?
choice. That was her choice.
And everybody got to ask whoever was in it, got to ask the questions.
The exit interview just happened and we have not received a report out on it yet.
Okay. Thanks.
I would have been surprised if you didn't get up, Bobby.
I would be surprised as well. Good afternoon, everyone. First, congratulations, Ms. McCann. You'll be sorely missed, I know, by many of us. Congratulations. So, a few questions. So, welcome, new superintendent. I've heard wonderful things about you, and we are all excited for how you will support our children. So, welcome to the town, to our kids. A couple questions that I had. So, I did meet with Ozzy, and Ozzy advised me that she was going to be providing a list of potential thoughts and action items publicly to us parents that she would say, these are things that I think are areas of opportunity. So I'm not sure if she shared that with all of you guys, but she did tell me that she was willing to do that in efforts for us parents to contribute to the success of our school, right? What are some of the things what are some of the mechanisms that we could ask for in order to prevent the fallout that we have seen up until this point. So I'm not sure if she shared that with you guys all, but that was something that she committed to me. So I will follow up with her and I'm sure we'll make that public. I'm sure she can give that to you guys in order to read it. I don't know publicly, but she did say that to me. The question that I have is there a readout on grants that we have submitted for year to date, maybe last year as well? And is there an ongoing capture of that information? So what grants have we submitted at each level for what end? Whether it be, CTE programs or club programs, or I mean, obviously some of the federal grants like, ECF and E-rate and things like that, like some of the more naturally occurring things that happen annually. So I guess I'm kind of looking at what are the annual grants that we apply for, and what were the awards, and then what are the ones that kind of come up, and how are we faring in that department? I do know that the town council, through ARPA money, has a Rosewood Consulting grant writer that the town pays for. The grant writer, to my understanding, after talking to several of the town council members, that grant writer receives a percentage of the grant award. But it behooves us to have this grant writer because, we're hearing how the principals and the educators are really in the classroom doing that work. So I know that they probably would love to apply for some of these grants, but they just don't have the bandwidth to do it. So how are we employing that Rosewood Consulting? So I guess that's my question. So one, do we have a catalog of the grants that we've been applying for, and can you share them with us, monthly or quarterly? And then two, how are we leveraging Rosewood Consulting at the moment?
So I know that we have given a report out on grants. I can't remember how long ago that was, but regardless, I think your request is great, and it would be maybe part of our, maybe not monthly report, but we'll see how often it changes, how often the information changes. It can be part of the reporting out on, and looking into maybe something to consider. The grant writer at the town first came in, I believe, with APRA money. I believe, I could be saying it wrong, but once she was here and then delving into grants and then getting a percentage of the grants that she's writing, maybe it's something we can partner with. I'm
Yeah,
just
'cause
spitballing here. I'm talking just for myself, so I don't even know if that's true. I haven't even spoken to the rest of the school committee, but
Yeah, I
you
did.
bring up good points.
I did explicitly ask the town council if that grant writer was open, could we be leveraging them with the school as well? And they said, yes, absolutely. It's town paid ARPA money. So absolutely the school could use them. I know that a lot of the principals are submitting for their grants on their own and they're doing that body of work, but why aren't we, we should be leveraging that consultant as well, who has expertise and can maybe expedite some of that workload.
Great.
It
Well,
brings
we'll
up
get, we'll get
just a
back to you
fair
with that
point
information.
on, so I do know that part of the assistant superintendent's job responsibilities is the grant writing and grant funding. Obviously, you are wearing quite a few hats right now. So I just, but I think that's something, you know, it to look that we should examine, like, in how are we, I know we've looked before, because I think obviously if there's money on the table, we want to go after it, right? Like those are missed opportunities. I think historically we've done a very good job of it, but I don't know. You're right. Let's check. And if that is something, again, education specific, a lot of it does entail an educator to be part of it for certain grants. But I think that might be something, especially in the interim, right? You can only do so many things at one time, right? So yeah, fair point.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Richard Finnegan, Ridge Road. At the school committee November 17th meeting, the chair ignored basic democratic principles of free speech. The Supreme Court has been clear. The vitality of our institutions depend on free discussion, and the government stays accountable only through free debate and the free exchange of ideas. Free speech allows citizens to advocate for what they believe unless their words pose a clear and present danger of substantial public harm. Nothing in that meeting said by any Scituate resident came remotely close to that standard. Residents demanding transparency about turmoil in our school department were not a threat. They were exercising their constitutional rights. Calling the police on our own citizens because the chair did not like the questions is inexcusable. It is not leadership, but an abuse of authority. No citizen should fear law enforcement being weaponized to silence them. The school committee and superintendent code of basic management principles and ethical standards sets out the basic management principles that this committee must follow. Oversee the superintendent without interfering, as the chair has. Encourage a diversity of community opinions and make public the information the community is entitled to. And that's what the community was seeking at the November 17th meeting. For the credibility of this school committee and the trust of the people of Scituate, the school committee must vote to remove the chair. The school committee can remove the chair at its pleasure. I request that this be placed on the next agenda of the school committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience before I go to Zoom? Of course.
Kate Galogly Lowell, 18 Pleasant Lane. Just wanted to say welcome. I'm a South County girl part-time as well. So I have a lot of friends in South County that teach there, and they were saying really great things about you. So we're very excited to have you. I didn't know if this would give any help talking about grants, but I didn't know if our finance director, Stephanie O'Leary's, she did all the grants for us and got like the recent one for the cafeteria with the fresh fruits and vegetables. You know, if somebody, maybe you guys already have, but if somebody is looked on her hard drive, she did all those grants and a lot, and of course, I think she would want to help if she had already been working on things this fall. But I guess my question is to what Bobby was talking about. I couldn't find it. Is the finance director position posted presently? Okay, good. I just, it is a little, I know we have the consulting company, but it's, it going on months and months of not having an actual person looking at it regularly. So that's reassuring, but I didn't know if maybe that information would be on her hard drive that was left behind of present grants that were being worked on, or what we got last year. Just a food for thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Seeing no one's hand up, I'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the Assistant Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. First, I just would like to thank everybody for kind of an overwhelming, warm welcome. It has been a bit of a whirlwind, but it is my sincere honor and privilege to be here. So thank you. I also just would like to take 1 second to recognize Ozzy. I have to say she has had worked so hard with me to transition for the sake of the children here. She did accept a position in another district, and I understand that these are large shoes to fill, but I also already see like her lasting impression here. I'm going to kind of like read a little bit because it just feels fair to put on the record the work she did in terms of the instrumental, for example, the instrumental work supporting the NEASC accreditation visit, the role helping the schools earn proficiency in all accreditation indicators, which is unbelievable. Launching the teaching and learning website, establishing the thoughtful curriculum revision cycles, an adoption protocol, also working tirelessly to have this balance of instruction, assessment, and reporting across the elementary schools. She also has provided the tremendous support in grant writing, progress monitoring, and always stepping up to meet the school department's needs. I know that everybody I've spoken to here is so grateful for what she did do here, and I am grateful for how she set me up here to be successful. And I'm sure she will continue to make a huge impact for the children of Rhode Island. And I'll just share, like, I've always worked collaboratively with other assistant superintendents and superintendents in the state. So I look forward to continuing to be able to work with her in this role. It is a small state. So I'm going to just step through a few other updates. For example, we have some employee updates, and I know in the packet tonight you have the specifics, but I just wanted to share again, the finance director position is still in process. There is a posting, and we are working currently with TMS to support us with our essential financial functions. Actually, it's interesting. I'll give this because it is part of what I had. They're on site. They're virtual and on site, and we're actually talking Thursday about grants. So I know this has come up, but it is important, short-term and long-term. It is an area when I worked at Rhode Island Department of Ed, I oversaw the monitoring of grants across the state for them. And I understand the critical nature of having access to that revenue source. And I'm grateful for the words of encouragement and support here. That's very important. I also wanted to share, we have the second maintenance technician filled, so we had 2 filled. We also have addressed the long-term social worker vacancy at the high school, middle school through contracted services and approved overages to ensure that student support continues. And then we are in the process of appointing a groundskeeper because we had the groundskeeper go into the maintenance position. So we're on that. And then we also do have 2 new bus monitors. So those positions have been filled. The next piece I wanted to update about is with respect to Northwest Special Education Region. And so this is a little lengthy, but just because it is on your agenda later, so you'll have a little bit of background. Um, we are recommending tonight that you continue the participation in the region for the 26-27 school year. And we have been working with legal counsel. Thank you, John, for all your time with me to help unpack this. At this time, we do feel that we don't have sufficient data to responsibly transition out of the collaborative or to design an alternative service model that can guarantee an uninterrupted, high-quality special education programming for our students. Before this separation would be considered, we would want to do the financial implication, program quality indicators, staffing requirements, really like dig in and do that evaluation. We are planning and recommending later on in the agenda that you consider continuing this collaboration for an additional year to allow the team to conduct this comprehensive study so that you would have more data in front of you to be able to make a more thoughtful, data-driven decision. In addition, we would maintain this current agreement for the next school year, ensuring the stability for our students, for our families, our staff, while we do continue to gather the data. Finally, I do want to share that I am working with Foster Gloucester and Gloucester, and they do also have an agenda item for a week from tonight. So we also have a meeting tomorrow morning, the Northwest Board. So we'll also have additional information coming in the future.
Linda, can I ask a question? And I don't know,
Of
I know
course.
we're going to have it on, but just, again, you've only been here a short time. I don't know that this committee has ever been informed why we would be exiting this. So it kind of came up on an agenda and then people were here and then people were gone. I know there's a lot of folks vested in this for their, obviously. And I think it's a very thoughtful decision that you made, but I think in the process of moving forward, why was that even entertained? What wasn't happening? And I don't want an answer now. Do you know what I mean? But I speak for myself. When it was an agenda item, we had no background. And through a series of unfortunate events, we weren't able to get. So why were we even looking at this? The one thing I believe I do know, and please, is that Foster has exited.
Exactly.
They've already made that decision.
Correct.
So, and that moving forward, and you speaking with Foster Gloucester and Gloucester, it's hard keeping them all straight. Is it your indication, that they are also going to look at extending their contract? Because obviously it makes, I think, again, I want to just extend this out, but if we're the only people in this contract, what happens?
Yeah,
I'm not asking you to speculate, John. I want to just, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're good.
Yeah.
You're asking awesome questions. So thank you. John, do you want to speak to this? Thank you.
Yeah. In terms of where the discussion started, it goes back to the fact that the Scituate school department did not have sufficient resources to do all the administrative work on the financial side for the collaborative, which is why
Which had been happening for years and years and years.
correct.
Okay.
And
Yep.
so what happened was that Scituate agreed and Foster Gloucester agreed to take over the administrative obligations of and the financial administration obligations of the collaborative. Foster Gloucester. That transition, which occurred this summer, was frankly one of the worst transitions I've ever seen in terms of the way the lack of cooperation, the way that employees were treated. My understanding is there's a pending unfair labor practice brought against Foster Gloucester for the way that certain employees have been treated. Situate's paying for that by state law, former and when employees retire, if they have life insurance, they have an ability to pay certified employees to pay for the life insurance. But if the premiums go up, the increase in premiums is paid by the school district. That's state law. It's not a huge amount, but there was an inquiry made. How are we going to work that out between, because right now they retired as quote Scituate employees because we were the administrative agent officer. I spoke to Foster Gloucester's lawyer about how this was going to work out. You know, in terms of contribution, how is this going to be paid for? I was told tough. Simple as that. That was the word, tough. So it has been a very difficult transition. I will point out that with Foster's decision to withdraw, that as in it's all votes for the collaborative on a going forward basis will be 2-1, they're 3-0 or 2-1 votes, because Foster Gloucester also has Gloucester's vote in the process. So that's the background in terms of where this comes from. In terms of your question about what happens if we're the last man standing, that's something that the school committee will have to wrestle with. I received an inquiry this week by email from Foster Gloucester's lawyer saying, suppose Foster Gloucester, and I'm paraphrasing, suppose Foster Gloucester votes to withdraw, but then Foster Gloucester later wants to come back. And my response to that would be that Scituate would have to agree to that, because who knows what commitments Scituate will make during the interim, and also who knows what terms Foster Gloucester will set on a going forward basis. So this is a moving issue. There are not good answers. There are not complete answers. I think the superintendent has been very wise, or the acting assistant superintendent has been very wise in that at the moment, we don't have the data in terms of what is the long-term best solution for Scituate and the children in Scituate. So, I mean, the best thing I can say is stay tuned.
So it's kind of like deduction in the fact that we have no control over what other districts do, right?
Correct.
So there's nothing, and this has nothing to do with the special education. What I'm hearing has to do with who the district that's hosting, not necessarily Northwest Special Education. I think when you see that, and I don't want to be misquoting but when you see it on an agenda, you're like, oh my God, what are they not doing? They're not meeting our kids' needs. That's not where this is coming from.
No.
Correct.
However, we need to be cognizant that, again, I'm not trying to buck what I think it's a very wise assessment. And the reality is we have no control over what other municipalities do.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, we still have an obligation to educate all of our, so we'll have to, right, okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're doing the best we can with what we know today. And we might know something different tomorrow, and then we'll make that decision. Yeah, or next Tuesday, right? Or both, because a board tomorrow and next Tuesday, a meeting. Thank you. I wanted to be able to just give a few more updates. I'm sorry. And I'm happy to take feedback later if I'm giving too much information, and change for the future. We had also been working on an HR services RFP. I just wanted to share that that's been extended for 2 more weeks. So we are working to have support and services around human resources and HR. I also wanted to provide a brief curriculum teaching and learning update. So we have feedback on both the middle school ELA and the high school math curriculum have been positive. it's big. Like when you change your curriculum, it's big. It's a big implementation. So these adoptions do advance the rigor. They strengthen the alignment with standards, and they support improved student outcomes. So this is exciting, and it's happy to be able to report good news on it. The curriculum revision work is also currently underway in the Library of Media Counseling area. We'll give you updates on that as we progress with it. The high school math data workshop was facilitated, and refinements to MTSS multi-tiered system of supports, processes, and the elementary report card are both ongoing. Also, the school department's fully compliant with right to read. Right to read, if for those who don't know, is a change in requirement of certification. Basically, anybody who's an educator or an administrator has to take additional coursework and hold this level of right to read requirement. So we are fully compliant here. That's awesome. We do have new staff, and they are working on that, and we'll make sure that we meet that requirement by the end of the school year. We also are working to continue to standardize our 504 procedures across the elementary schools. The 2025 report card results were released, and you saw tonight the high school. And so we'll continue to share those with you and the community as we step through. And we're excited for that, but we're also using our data to see where we can improve. I also just wanted to share briefly supporting students and expanding opportunities. We've continued to improve our IEP workflow planning through PowerSchool special programs, and we're going to continue to work on that to ensure access. This is something that's already been popping up with me even just today. Schools have also made adjustments to ensure the learning environments are safe and responsive to individual student needs. And finally, there's a Learn 365 Round 4 grant has been launched, and new clubs and extracurricular activities are have begun across the school district to support with the support from that grant. In respect to facilities, just giving a kind of quick update on that. Safety-related door repairs at the middle school and high school were completed. Holes in the middle school and high school roof have been patched, and the Hope elementary school roof remains under review by the engineer. But the good news is Rhode Island Department of Ed has said that we will not have to do an amendment for the dollars that we have on that project. So that will help us to save some time on that work. I also wanted to share lastly, and I was very excited and honored to be there. There was in respect to our family partnerships, we had a PAC meeting. And so that was November 20th, where members shared questions and recommendations and ideas to support the school department and improvement efforts. So there were members of the administrative team, members of the school committee there with parents, and we sometimes got specific and sometimes general, talked about things like how we could improve the website or how we could make sure that we provide access to the athletic handbook that has been in like a draft version that we're working to make sure folks have better access to. So we appreciate that feedback and work together and partnership so much, are passionate about how much it is needed and what we need to do together to work forward, and are excited for the next meeting together. And that's all. Thank you.
Any questions from the school committee? That brings us to the finance report from MTS. And that would be, it's Mark and Mark. What's the last name so Liam can help find them? Mark, do you see a Mark Ricard, Rachard, and a Mark Shapulis?
And Mark.
Yep. Right below. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Mark Richard. Yes, and my colleague Mark Chapulis is going to join us. We are from TMS. We've been working with the district for it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow, so it's only been a short period working with all of you. It's been a nice experience, and we're getting to know everything. We're going to go through and share some financials that we put together. I'm going to do the presenting, but Mark and I work as a team with folks, and so I'm going to go through and just share what we've pulled together, a really a summary of things. There's a lot of data that was provided with the budget documentation that you received in your packages, but I'm going to go through some summary information and try to kind of give our perspective on how things look. I please understand that we, like I said, only about 2 weeks in, so we may not have answers to all questions that folks have, but we will surely be doing a lot of research and pulling things together as we move forward. Our goal is to keep things operating, smoothly, but also to keep everyone informed as to how things are looking. And so we pulled this data together on November 19th, doing some reports out of the accounting system, Tyler Technologies, to pull some of the expenses and to coordinate it in the format similar to what you've seen in the past. And we modified a little bit just so it was a little bit more condensed for a FY26 focus, so that we could really take a look at that, because that's kind of what we're looking at now, and understand everything's kind of a snapshot in time, because it was the expenses change daily as the expenses are going through. But we also did some work with I wanted to inform you that with the business office staff to incorporate payroll encumbrances into our reporting, so that we could get a better idea of the projections for the year. Those encumbrances, along with any of payroll, but along with any other expenses, are really those funds are locked in or kind of targeted for specific purchases. And so having that information kind of shows us what things are looking like. And I'll say, bottom line, there's no red flags with the report I'm going to show you, but it is important for us to know that we'll be updating things as we move forward, so that you can get a good view of how the finances are looking. I'm going to share my screen.
Mark, while you're doing that, I just wanted to comment for the general population, in case encumbrance is kind of the technical term we use, but basically, what Mark's explaining is that payroll, because it also runs through the accounting software, has the ability to be encumbered. And what that means is the full salary for each employee is accounted for in the software. So it's, basically what happens is you start off with 100% of the salaries reserved, and then as the year goes on, it goes from, say you get paid $100 a week, it goes down $100 out of your encumbered line and goes up $100 out of your expended line. So basically it's a way, from the accounting perspective, to make sure that, we're tracking and we have a good understanding in the business office as to the biggest expense of the district, any district, and where it stands. So, it's a positive aspect that, because, Scituate has the payroll module within the software, that's something that, that's turned on and we can utilize through the course of the year.
Thanks, Mark. So I'm going to run through this information, and I'm going to, stop sharing. See if there's any questions. I can bring this back up afterwards if people want to ask or see anything in particular. But, overall, I'll just look at the bottom line of the totals. We have FY26 Situate's budget is 28,571,139. Through July 1st through November 19th, $9,211 and $211,131 has been expended. That's roughly about 32% of the budget. Again, it's that doesn't look way off or way out of norms. What's spent and encumbered, The total is $23,933,877. So that's about close to 84% of the budget, leaving about $4,637,262. That is, we'll say, unencumbered. It is funds that have not been, again, targeted or locked in. So there's some flex there, or ability to react to any kind of situations going forward. You will see in these expenditure categories, there's one line that's in red. It's the salaries line. The budget is 16,182,342. With what's been spent and encumbered, it's looking at like $16,659,985. So about $477,643 more than what's budgeted. Roughly 3% over the budget. That again is something we're going to look at. We're going to research to see what's happening there. There's several things we're looking at when it comes to things like this. And we're going to be researching, and some of it is along the lines of, where there's some salaries that should be allocated to a grant that are being charged to a general fund account. Are there some areas where there's something an encumbrance that needs to be cleared that just hasn't been? So we're going to be looking at that. So it's not a red flag, but it's just something that we want to make sure we're aware of, and we take a look at and we do some research on. But again, based on all the other lines and what is left in unencumbered, it's not a high level of concern right now. It is something we will look at, but it's not something that we are feel that there's any need for panic or concern at this time. So we have some time. We're going to take a look at some of these things. There are some lines that are really, in particular, other purchase services. There's about $2.5 million that has not been spent or encumbered. So we want to take a look at that number and just see, what is where are we, being, in November, what is it that hasn't been purchased, and just see if there's funds that need to be reallocated, reclassed, and moved in some way. So, again, with all the lines being where they are, there's nothing that is, again, cause for a red flag concern, but there's several things that we want to take a look at to just see what we do to refine things and to give you some more refined numbers next time we meet. Mark, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Well, I guess in general, I would just mention, because when we share something like this, and you can see only 32% of the budget has been expended, but when people see a number like, oh, there's 83.77% of the budget spoken for, and is that a concern? And from us at a 10,000 mile down look, it's really not, for the simple reason of what we've been talking about, is that salaries being the biggest portion of the budget. When that known quantity has already been baked into the budget, you through the encumbrance process, and then looking at the other lines, like the fringe benefit line, where obviously what happens is known expenses for the health insurance payments, for utilities, things that are known, are set up in the accounting software as purchase orders that get expended over the course of the year. So basically, when we say encumbered, it's basically accounting for known expenses and plugging that in, and you're basically kind of expending out of that amount through the course of the year. So when we see $4 million available, and it's only, whatever, it's 16 point whatever percent of the budget left, to us, that's a good story, because it means that the known expenses that we've had, and what also happens in school districts is a lot of the orders for everything, curriculums, supplies, whatever, happens on the front end. A lot of those expenses have happened up front at the beginning of the year. So when we get to the point of December, and we have 4.6 million available, that's available for non-spoken for expenses, that's not a bad thing.
Can I just ask a question, or just maybe
Sure.
make a statement? So again,
I understand all of that. I think, but we also need to be very cautious we also don't want to look at this and say, oh my gosh, we have $4.6 million that, so again, even as particularly under the, other purchase services, there's no way that we budgeted. And again, I know you guys are just drilling down on this, right? Like of a $3 million, no, where am I? We don't have an extra 2.5 million hanging around. I can guarantee that, right? So maybe some of these things need to be allocated elsewhere. Maybe these things haven't come due yet. So the knowns are in here already, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like, so this is what we spent. This is what we have projected to spend. This is where we are right now. But it's obvious that we don't have a $4.6 million surplus, right? Like, let's be real. We need to just kind of stress that. No. I get it, but I just want to, wow, they did a great job there. Yeah.
No, and 100%. Please, we're not claiming that. But we do, and we do, that's part of our research is to say, what is it that hasn't been, a purchase order hasn't been put in or hasn't been set up in the system so that we can, again, lock in those funds and get a better idea. So that is a lot of our research because, yeah, that is a big number. And I certainly, unless something significant has changed, but yeah,
We'd be happy. We'd be very happy. We might keep you forever if that's the case. But I do know that working on this budget this year, it's a tight budget. So there's no way, like we went back at it. So again, I know a lot of things, am I going to say it right? UCOA codes or however it is, some things are allocated somewhere, may need to be moved. Stephanie did a lot of that to kind of get everything in uniform chart of account. Yeah, I'm getting kind of good. But yes, I mean, that would be wonderful, but I think this is just an initial picture. Obviously, it could be much worse. If we looked at this and saw that everything was expended, we'd be like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But
yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep.
So that brings us to new business and discussion action vote on the school committee meeting calendar. The only one I think we want to consider moving, and we can even do it then, but if we can do it now, is the September 1st meeting, which I believe is so close to, is that the first day of school or close to? But it's very close to the first day of school, and we've learned in the past that that is a bit much to ask to prep for a school committee meeting within the first week of school. So if people are okay with that, I'd like to move that meeting to September 8th. That's primary day. Then maybe we can wait until the time comes. We don't have to do it now, but because we don't want to have a meeting 2 weeks later. So we'll address it later. Does that sound good? Keep it now and then address it later. See where we stand. Why can't we do it on primary day? Because people are voting.
Schools. In some communities, if the school is being used as a polling place, in other communities, people feel that on a voting day, people should be voting.
Understood. All right. Should we wait until the time comes, committee, and see, or?
I just want to speak to while we have the calendar in front of us, and I know we've spoken at this at previous meetings. I don't know if this is the time to do it, but taking our show on the road and going to the different schools.
Yes, it's already scheduled, I believe. Right, Becca? We're coming to you next. So I know that they scheduled that. But that was scheduled before Ozzy left. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to make sure we go through, we used to do it I'm going historically at the school committee meeting where we would, at the beginning of the year, we would start at one school and kind of make our rounds through, and then so we could have sufficient notice of where we'd be and when, so.
So I can get that out of where that's been scheduled, and the reason why it started now, which is later, is because we're waiting for the star ratings to come out, and it was explained to me that they would rather have more information to share.
The other piece too is, I know we've spoken about it, and I think specifically at the elementary schools, because we're here a lot, we're in this building a lot, middle school, high school, but when we do hit the road, if it's as soon as January, to have the facilities director available or interim facilities director, so we can do the tour of the schools, to kind of see the areas of need, the areas of, what we've been doing to
Yeah.
improve. Good. All right.
Including like the boiler room. Not the roof, though. We're not going up there. But yes, that's on the plan.
Perfect.
Oh, now we go. So we'll keep the calendar as it is. And if we need to adjust it, we'll adjust it when the time comes. So do I have a motion to approve the school committee meeting calendar for 2026?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then last is the Northwest Special Education 1-year extension of contract.
So I'd like to make a motion to extend the Northwest Special Education contract by 1 year and ask that the superintendent, as acting superintendent, assistant superintendent, can we just call you Linda? Is that okay? I don't mean to be informal, but there's a lot of provide us with an update as soon as possible regarding what the other districts do, but absolutely to extend.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any announcements? No announcements. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.